Hey, welcome to another episode of MLM Renegade. This week we're going to talk about the road to success and how boring it is. So here's the million-dollar question. How are network marketers like us, who've tried everything their upline ever suggested to be successful and yet still struggled, who grew up with technology and aren't stuck in the 20th century, how are we supposed to grow our downlines and our bank accounts and yet still have time for real life? My name is J.R. McKee. Join me as we explore how to use 21st century learning and technology to grow our downlines and build lasting wealth. Simply put, this is MLM done different. Welcome to MLM Renegade. All right, welcome back. So today, I was perusing through social media here in the past week, and I came across a post from a mentor of mine, actually Rob Sperry, who was on the podcast here a few episodes ago, and he said something really, really interesting. But basically, he said being consistent is boring, being disciplined is boring, but so is being broke. And it hit me. It honestly hit me like a slug to the chest. It was. And I saw that and I thanked him. I was like, "Hey, you just gave me my my material for my next podcast episode," and so here we are. And so, I wanted to talk a little bit about the road to success and why it can be so boring. We all know that in any endeavor that we're working on in life, there are principles and there are things that happen that we need to work on, that we need to do in order to be better capable of reaching our goals. And I think a lot of times we look for the silver bullet. And I had a sales leader once tell me that, Jarrett, there are no silver bullets, just a lot of lead ones. And that was pretty impactful as well. And I've got metaphors and different stories for days, especially when it comes to sales. But these two together kind of struck me, and so I want to talk about a little bit about that today. And so the road to success really is paved with doing the simple things well. People who are successful in network marketing, people who are successful in business in general, do the simple things that other people aren't willing to do just better. Or they do them better, or they do them because others aren't willing to. And, sometimes those things are simple, like servicing a customer. Sometimes they're more complex, like diving into social media. That can be a more complex issue. But what they do is they are consistent. And, frankly, I have always struggled with keeping something going consistently. And I use different tactics on myself to help put up those guardrails and keep me on the path that I want to go. And so sometimes, I will set goals. I'll set up to-do lists. I will go through and mentally have a checklist of things that I need to accomplish in order to get where I can see the road where I want to go, right? I can see that pinnacle. I can see that top of the mountain where I want to go plant my flag. And maybe, maybe I need to set up guardrails, or I need to rope up in order to be able to climb up to that peak. And those ropes or those guardrails are around simple things. One of the first books I read this year was Atomic Habits. Fantastic book. I cannot recommend it enough. But atomic is not so much, when I say the word atomic, most of the time the image that will pop into your head is a mushroom cloud, right? It looks like Hiroshima or Nagasaki, right? It is a huge explosion. And sometimes something that goes atomic can be that. But really, what Atomic Habits is talking about is actually the direct inverse. Instead of going nuclear, right, and blowing up, atomic habits are the tiny, tiny habits, the tiny particles, the atomic particles that we put in each and every day to get to where we're going. And so these atomic habits, they take consistency. In order to be consistent to continue working on this podcast, right, I had to set a time up, 2 p.m. on Wednesday. That's when things are going to be published. And I'm actually thinking going to, I want to plug in and potentially actually add a second round each week. But I don't want to go too crazy yet. I want to make sure the content and is of high quality, and that it's driving value. I'd rather not just hop on here and babble for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. It's not helpful for anybody. But for me, this becomes a creative outlet. And so doing that consistently is really important to me. And so that's why I chose 2 o'clock on Wednesdays. Now, being disciplined, is part of that consistency. Now, discipline, a lot of times we think about, my second or third grade teacher who liked to carry around a yardstick and tap it on or smack it on the desk when somebody was not doing what they were supposed to be doing. Now, as you guys might be able to imagine, I kind of talked a lot as a kid. And so that yardstick may or may not have smacked onto my desk more than one time. But that discipline helped me to understand some things and helped me to get better at that particular aspect of my education, right? Well, being disciplined, where I learned discipline more than anything is when I was in college. I was an Air Force ROTC cadet. And I thought I wanted to fly F-16s for the rest of my life. In fact, I still kind of want to fly F-16s for the rest of my life, but that ship has sailed now. Some of my best friends in the world are pilots and did exactly that. I have a friend of mine who actually got out of the Air Force, went to work for Delta Airlines, but still for a time was part of a reserve unit. And so he would fly the friendly skies during the week and fly F-16s on the weekend. And I'm like, okay, I can't think of a cooler way to continue to serve your country and make a living. But ultimately, I had a life changed. My daughter was born, and I decided that wasn't the route that I needed to take my life. But what it did teach me was a lot of discipline. I had I will call it an opportunity, because it did teach me a lot, to go to boot camp twice. Now, the first time I went as a trainee. And it was an ROTC boot camp, so it was a little bit different than what a lot of kids are going through at 17, 18, 19 years old when they come out of high school. This was for future officers, and it was a month, and it was in San Antonio, Texas, in the heat of the summer. And let me tell you, it taught me a lot about being mentally tough. About, as I would say, go to my happy place and continue to push, because we did a lot of push-ups. And I mean a lot of push-ups. In fact, there was one point where our entire squadron was being disciplined, and there was like 25 or 30 of us in this group, right? And they have us in these dorms, and they have what they called a day room, which was basically, it was kind of a multi-purpose room. It had vinyl tiles on the floor, kind of like in the hospital, and right there were some chairs in there or whatever, and they would use it for a classroom space, or they would use it for discipline. So they had all of us in there. And we were all in the forward-leaning rest, which means push-up position, right? And so we're all sitting there in push-up position, and this instructor, he basically had us there and was yelling at us for one thing or another. Basically, if you guys didn't know this, in boot camp, everything you do is wrong, and you're always late. It doesn't matter if you're 10 minutes early; you were already late, and you're making the person who's getting you there even more late. And so they're always yelling at you for something, and part of it is to break you down, and part of it is to help instill some esprit de corps because you band together as a team, and part of it is to make you stronger. And in this case, it was making us stronger because we were sitting there doing push-ups, and we were in this room for like an hour, and for 75% of that time, we were in a push-up position, and we were doing various states of push-ups, whether they were all the way down, or we were pushing all the way up, or the very favorite of them was to go half up, which doing half a push-up and holding yourself there is painful. But over that time, in that hour, you got 30 warm bodies in there. The walls started to sweat. Like the place stunk to high heaven, which we of course got yelled at later and had to clean up. But it taught us this discipline. Nobody was complaining, at least not audibly while we were in there, because that just meant more pain. And so that discipline, that being able to go to your happy place, got instilled in me. Further got instilled in me when I was actually a part of you guys, maybe you've seen A Few Good Men, you've seen the rifle, kind of the rifle drill teams. I always, my 15-year-old daughter is on a drill team, which is very different than what I did. But we basically would take these 12-pound M1 Garand rifles, and we would spin them, we would flip them, we would throw them, and we'd do all kinds of cool stuff while we're marching around, and it looked kind of cool. Just like I said, if you've seen A Few Good Men, you've seen the opening scene of that. That's the Marine drill team, and they're incredible. We did some of that. So we would get inspected in these competitions, and there is nothing crazier than having a very large drill instructor who just had extra onions on his Philly cheesesteak for lunch, who's within 3 inches of your nose, yelling his brains out for something stupid. Like, I don't know, there was a small thread hanging out of my shirt or something like that. I mean, it was just, and again, the idea here is to get into your head. Well, but it taught me discipline. You think the next time I went up for an inspection like that, that I had that I had one of those threads hanging out? No, I learned it. I fixed it. I moved on, and it made me stronger. And that old adage of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is absolutely true. And when it comes to success, when we're consistent and when we're disciplined, it might be boring, but it makes us strong. And it makes us so that we don't have to deal with being broke. Being broke is painful. So is discipline. So is consistency. It's painful. It could be boring too. But guess what? Your life can be really boring if you're broke because you can't enjoy what's out there. You can't go and do things. You can't spend time with your family doing activities that are incredible. My wife and I have planned a trip for our family. Our oldest is leaving to serve a mission for our church in Toronto, Canada in July. And before that, we're having a family vacation. We're going to New York City. I'm the only one in the family who's ever been to New York, and so I'm excited to show them around a little bit. We're gonna go to a Broadway show. We're gonna go see the Statue of Liberty. We're gonna go to a baseball game. We're gonna do all these very quintessential New York things. It's because of consistency and discipline that I can do that with my family. It's because I'm willing to do the small things that I can get big things. I'm a big fan of the scriptural quote, "By small and simple things are great things brought to pass." And, in business and in life, it's never more evident than doing those small and simple things, those atomic habits. Because when we can do the simple things, like maybe it's getting up in an early hour so that we can spend enough time to meditate or to do personal development work or to reach out to people in your business who need help. Whatever the case is, we will always need that opportunity to do those small things. And when we take those opportunities, instead of wasting them, we're going to multiply our efforts. I'm a big fan of Grant Cardone's 10X. Basically, he talks about doing 10 times what everybody else is doing, and that's going to bring him success. I was like, well, yeah, you put 10 times more effort into something. Obviously, you're going to have a greater success opportunity there. And it's the same with all aspects of our business. So when you're going out there, when you're making contacts, when you're making sales calls, whether it's a network marketing business or a traditional business, you're always going to be doing small things. For my day job right now, I have a goal each day to contact between 5 and 10 doctors. That is that's what I need to do. Those are the small things that I need to do to get through that and to reach my higher goals. Now, when I do that, I find success. When I don't do that, I wonder, gee, why am I not having any success? When you do the little things, the big things happen. You guys, I can't emphasize this enough. By small and simple things are great things brought to pass. By being consistent and being disciplined, being a little boring, we're going to have huge success. Okay? You won't be broke. Being broke is boring. Okay? Don't be boring. Be exciting. Be willing to put in the work, and you too will have incredible success. That's all I've got for this week, guys. Look forward to next week, where I've got a couple of interviews coming up with some incredible people. Look forward to sharing those with you. Until then, have a great day. Hey, thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe. And if you loved us, leave us an awesome review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Now, if you'd like some free training for your team on how your recruiting efforts can be bettered and brought into the 21st century, go to podcast.mlmrenegade.com and get your copy of the Renegade Recruiting Kickstarter.